So this is, I think, going to be our 6th episode of the Buska Podcast.
Buska?
Buska, yeah. And so,
does that stand for something?
So it's actually a brand that Kyle came up with years ago, and it's just it's a Spanish. Buscar is like to search, to seek, to find.
Oh,
and so Buska is like what's that called in Spanish? Like where you conjugate it. It's a conjugation of Buscar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it's just to seek, to find, to look. And so we've been using it for like hunting videos and stuff like that. And I had a name for the podcast. It was going to be called The Freedom Forge. And I liked it, but I just asked Kyle, I was like, hey, is it all right if we use Buska as the name of the podcast? And he said, sure. So that's what it is.
I'm sure he liked that. I like the meaning behind that too. One thing about like everyone in the collective, we all call each other seekers, like for a higher consciousness. But I mean,
yeah,
for more education, for more knowledge, for more freedom, for anything.
Exactly. And that's kind of what the Buska Podcast is about, is about business and entrepreneurship and things like that. But it's also just about whatever it is that you're seeking in life. And like for me, what I seek in life and why I've been led to like entrepreneurship and business ownership and things like that is just being able to create my own life and have the freedom to do the things that I love and have the means to be able to do it as well. And also being able to create an opportunity for other people to like have the lifestyle that they want as well. And as I've gotten better and more experienced in business and as an entrepreneur, it's become more about the people that work with me and for me than about the business. Just because like the more knowledge and the more experience that I can give them and help them, the more beneficial like my business is. You know, I make more money by having really awesome individuals in the business than necessarily having like a crazy, you know, business-minded business in a sense, I guess. But so that's kind of why Buska is the way it is, just because it's about talking to people that are going after something and are doing new experiences, whether that's business or skydiving or hunting or whatever it might be. And so, like I said, this is, I think, going to be episode 6, maybe 5. I'm not 100% sure, but I think actually 5. And so this is all just figuring out what the podcast is too. You know, like probably 3 people will listen to this or watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and so it is kind of just whatever we want. But I wanted to bring you on. I'll introduce you a little bit. So Chelsea has, I was introduced to her about a year and some change ago, where she wanted to lease out some space in the building that we lease and that we sublease space. And she came into the building with a partner to start a wellness collective, yoga studio, and turned into just wellness in general. Like there's classes here that are hosted in all different forms of wellness. And also she's added on massage therapy and light therapy and counseling and just like a whole bunch of different avenues of just trying to create wholeness and wellness in people. And it's been really awesome to see and watch her grow and see the true entrepreneurship of what she does. And it's always been really apparent that Chelsea is the type of person that it just makes things happen. And I'm really interested to hear the story of how she figured that out in herself, and where that started. Did it start when she was really young? Did it start like when she was older? Like where did that come from? Did it come from a family member, or was it just something that, you know, has always been? And so I'm really interested to hear that story. We might talk a little bit about business stuff as well. and what she's doing here inside of the office and different things. So I'm excited to have you. Welcome. But yeah, if you wanted to say a little bit about yourself too, anything that I might have missed or misspoke or said.
Yeah. You did your research. You did a good job at introducing the Wellness Collective. Yeah, I would just add on that we're a group of entrepreneurs all trying to collectively raise the vibration and just bring health and healing to people. And it has shifted quite a bit since, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been quite a journey. And you have been great sounding board. And I think I always know, because I lead with my intuition, I always know the right answers, and I get quiet and I hear what I'm supposed to do. But it's nice to be validated sometimes. And
yeah. And I think that like entrepreneurs just have a really good sense of that intuition a lot of times, because Kyle and I talked about it just recently, of that to be an entrepreneur, a business owner in general, you just kind of have to do. You kind of have to just try it. Whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're doing, you just have to have a answer. And whether it's the right answer or not, it's, doesn't really matter in the moment. You'll learn if it's the right answer soon enough, and so it's being able to just do and try and start and then learn. And a lot of people really struggle with that idea of starting, then learning. They want to learn everything perfectly and then start.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. One of the biggest things that I have learned and then I see stop a lot of people is they want it to be perfect, like a perfect product before they release it, like a workshop or a flyer or whatever it is, even just a video, a podcast, right? What I am seeing a lot with the collective is they want to have something that's very fine-tuned and presentable. But that's definitely not my MO. I'm an implementer, and I'm going and I'm, like you said, learning as I go and pivoting and reflecting a lot. And I think that definitely came from my childhood, just having to do and take leadership because couldn't rely on anyone else to do it situation. So
what did that look like? I know for me, I had some good examples with my parents. My parents franchised and owned a grocery store, and they did really well with that grocery store. The time that they owned it, they sold it when I was about 14. And I would say that they were a different type of entrepreneur, in the way of they have always had goals of working for themselves. But I think like with them and their entrepreneurship and how we differ, my parents and I differ, I think for them it was always the idea of how can I stay in this business and work it. For me, it's always been how can I work my way out of this business, from the very beginning.
Sure.
And how can like this business like work for me instead of how can I work in it, because when you're working in the business, it's hard to work on your business. And so if you're in the day-to-day grind and you're and the day-to-day grind is always required. It's just, you can't get away from it. From the very beginning, you have to do it, but eventually you should get to the point where you can delegate and hand stuff off to other people, and you're working your way out of your business to then work on it. And with my parents, I don't think they really ever thought about business in that way. It was more so if we just work harder, we'll just make more, instead of trying to find people to replace them in their own business, if that makes sense. For you, like what was your, you said like growing up, it was a lot of just taking care of yourself, and figuring stuff out. You think that's what kind of led you into the entrepreneur spirit, or was it something
I
else?
had a very different upbringing than you.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't seen my parents since I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 4 sisters, so I'm one of 5 girls, and we were all taken out of the home and put into foster care,
Mm-hmm.
separated into different homes in different states even. And then at 16, I ended up getting emancipated. So I was in charge of taking care of myself since I was 16. So I was going to high school full time and working night shift, and taking AP classes and trying to be president of Tree Club and Skills USA and do all the things. A lot of that I see now was a trauma response for worthiness. I felt like because I came from extreme poverty, because my parents were drug addicts, because we got taken out of the home, I was so ashamed to hold that. Like we were the black sheep, because I know that we have cousins and aunts out there, but I don't know where they're at. They don't reach out to us, And so from a young age, that self-worth and that lack of was like embedded in me.
Sure.
And so that helped me become an overachiever. And so I say thank you, like thank you for having my power shut off at 12 and like having no food in our fridge and getting evicted and like living in a van. Thank you, because it made me work so hard. So at that time, I was like dropping out of junior high, got into drugs and alcohol, and then decided I didn't want this for my life. I did a complete 360 and went back to school, graduated with like a 4.3. Like I said, president of Tree Club and Skills USA and working night shifts and paying rent, bought a car, paying your insurance at 16, all of that stuff. And I don't think I would be the entrepreneur I am without having to go through all of that. I learned so much grit, so much tenacity, so much just do it because no one else is here to do it for you. And I'm hyper independent because of it, which is good and bad. Yeah. It allows me to be a leader, allows me to get things done. But then I do have a hard time accepting help. And it's just like things I can still grow on is my hyper independence because we're stronger together. But it has given me, my childhood has given me all of the skills that I need to be an entrepreneur. So yeah, we had very different upbringings. Most people thought that like all of the sisters were going to be like pregnant and drug addicts, And so what is my motivating factor now that keeps me going is like, I'm here to make generational change. Like you, I want to work smarter and harder. And I want to be the one that changes, the freak's name.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think like for us, I think that, yeah, we did have different upbringings. But I feel like we had experiences that were similar in the way of just learning how to work really hard and knowing with you and the level of poverty and things that you were at as a kid. When my parents were, trying to own a grocery store, they were going through training processes. I moved 10 times before I was 10. And we, there was a bunch of times where, as a kid, you don't really realize it, but as you grow up, then you're like, oh yeah, we were, really struggling then. And we, were, eating ramen every night or SpaghettiOs or, whatever. And we were pretty dang, poor when I was younger, and then they got into the grocery store and started to, figure things out. But what was, there from, grocery stores, I grew up in the grocery store, like my parents were there every single day. uh, from the time I was like 8, my dad would say, "Oh, you get a penny a box," and so I would be out in the grocery store just taking stuff out of boxes so that I could grab a box and take it to the back. And I would, my parents' employees would get really irritated with me because I'd be like, "You got to count my boxes." So like, as we put them into the compactor, they would count them for me, and I would get a penny for every box that I do. And so like, and by the time I was 11, I was working full time in the summers with my dad, 8-hour days and getting paid a paycheck. And, I learned like with you being on your own, it's like a whole different level. But, for me as a kid, like learning that work gets a paycheck and then a paycheck gets like things that I want. Or in your case, like things that you needed. You needed to pay rent. You needed to pay your car insurance. As a whole different level. For me, it was like I've just always wanted things, and like my parents wouldn't buy me certain things or different things that were just wants. So I'd be like, okay, I gotta figure out how to get this. And so I would mow lawns and I would fix Xboxes. I would like figure out ways of, and then when my parents sold the grocery store at 14, I started working at night during high school. And the guy that hired me, the janitorial company that hired me, he's like, "You just tell people you're 16. Like, and he knew that I could work because like I was working full time, from the time I was like 10, all the way up in the summers, like with my parents in the grocery store. And so I could work hard. And that's one thing that my dad would always say is like, if there's anything that you're going to learn from me, it's going to be working hard. And I think that being an entrepreneur, you have to have that ability to work really, really hard. And I see that inside you 100%. And it's interesting because I didn't know, kind of your upbringing or, circumstance. I just know you from a year of seeing where you're at. As a kid, growing up and, making that change in your life, from going from not really caring, kind of being what you were expected to be, like in the circumstance that you're at, to changing that into I'm going to be what is unexpected. What brought that on, like inside of yourself? Like what was there an external force or was that always internal? Like how did that work with you?
Yeah. I remember the day. And so I'm an older sister, and my sisters have always looked up to me. I'm kind of like the mama hen or the ringleader if we're getting into trouble. And one of my sisters, Hannah, her and I have always been really close. And so because we were in poverty, yet we still wanted things, at that time, my mindset was to steal. So I would steal clothes, I would steal food, I would steal makeup. And then my sister Hannah saw me doing that and she wanted the things that I had. So then I taught her how to steal. And then we got caught stealing. And I went to juvie. She did not. But I remember just like crying in that cement block, because like literally it's a cement block. Someone was able to come get her. No one was able to get me. But I remember just thinking like, what did I just do to me and my sister? Like I influenced her this terribly that now she's going to have a record. It felt like the end of the world.
Sure.
And she'd also want to, hang out with me and my friends when we were drinking or whatever we were doing. And it just hit me so strong that I'm an influencer, whether it's to my little sister or to, the public or to the people in my classes. Like my actions have so much influence, and I don't want to influence my family and my sisters like that are my number one in any negative way. I only want to be someone that's uplifting, someone that's positive, and someone that's going to prove, that we can get out of this situation that we were in. And so, yeah, it was like a switch. Like I didn't ever have to, I didn't fail a drug test. The judge never had to see me again. I did all my public service. What do they call that?
Community service.
Community service. Yeah. And to even like get out of the crowd I was running in, I ended up taking 4 public buses before I could even afford a car to a completely different school district so that I could start over. No teachers knew me, no students knew me. And yeah, from there on, it felt like a clean slate. And I decided that I was going to be a better version of myself, and I was going to be the game changer in our family.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's incredible, that switch into people, like when they decide, and I do think that like most of life is a decision. I do think like circumstance has some play into who we become. But also I do think that most of what we do and what we what we become in life is a decision. Whether it's a decision to be what you're expected to be, or a decision to not be and grow and change. And I think that like your decision to put yourself into a whole new environment was probably pivotal to that. Like, that whole idea of just like,
and I don't even know how I got that idea, but I think I just felt like I needed a fresh start, and luckily they allowed me to as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, to have that foresight is really impressive, especially like not having any influences, outside that, like even telling you to do that. But it's cool that you took that responsibility on.
Thank you.
To be like, hey, if I don't change, then my sisters aren't going to like have a chance as well, because they're looking at me as a person to like tell them what's right, what's wrong, like what's good, and where to go in life.
Yeah.
So with that, going from, deciding to be on your own, emancipation, doing your own thing, figuring stuff out, what led you to like the wellness, sphere, like yoga, and just teaching and, being that light for other people? I know that you obviously said that you figured out that you were an influencer at that time, but what led you into this idea? And then also, like just why?
Yeah.
Like what's the why?
Well, specifically starting out in yoga, I took my first yoga class kind of all in that same time frame when I moved schools and completely tried to shift who I was. I would also take the city bus to the downtown YMCA, and I got a free pass there because I applied. They have a scholarship you can apply for, so I got a free pass there, and I would just like spend hours there taking different group classes. So I took like my first group fitness class, my first Zumba class, my first yoga class, and I had a really terrible self-esteem. My self-esteem was really terrible. And then also my body image was not great. I struggled with my weight. And I remember taking a yoga class and the teacher talking about her eating disorder and her body dysmorphia. And it really resonated. And so then I continued to go to her classes and continue to take yoga. And it was like a refuge from the chaos that was my life. And first thing that I did when I graduated high school, in that summer in between college and high school, I took my first teacher training and got a taste of teaching and holding space for people. And it just felt right. And then I went to college and had a government job and, had a whole nother career besides this. But I always had my yoga practice to keep me in my intuition in line, and taught on the side as well. Yeah. And then when my other career was not fulfilling, just feeling like I needed more, I was called to do more, and I couldn't ignore the call anymore. I quit, and I went back to school. I think I'll be in school forever. And started teaching full time, and then just realized what it meant to be an entrepreneur, because every teacher basically is an entrepreneur because we're all independent contractors. But at that time, I still had the employee mindset. And then slowly, I started to build this ownership mindset. And it's just kind of taken off from there as I continue to listen and feel and see what needs to be provided. I lead from a heart of service. Like, that's what I feel like I have, is a heart of service. I'm not here to have a good time. I'm actually here to just serve, and I'm okay with that. And so I keep listening and absorbing information and education, and also absorbing the needs of the people around me, whether it's big picture or, small nuclear circle, and then make decisions from there on what the next step is. So
you had a government job. What government job was that?
I was a firefighter.
A firefighter. That's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. My dad was a volunteer firefighter. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And then it turned into forest fighting. And then
did you do it?
I didn't. No, I went and served my mission, and then got home and was kind of just deciding what to do with my life, and went and chased after a girl, was dating her for a little while, and got a job at UPS, delivering packages, driving a truck. And when I was dating her, it was well, I can just do this for the rest of my life. They have really good benefits.
They do act, and they pay well.
Yeah, they pay really well. Yeah. They have to. And that's the thing with UPS. That's a secret that I learned about business, is that if you pay people weekly, no matter how sucky the job is, people will come back.
Interesting. Okay.
Because at the end of the week, if you pay them really good and you pay them weekly, at the end of the week, you're dang, that really, really, really sucked. I hate this. And then you get paid, and you're just it really wasn't that bad.
Right.
Okay. And so it's every week you're just it really wasn't that bad, and so that's how they keep them, and they pay them enough to where it's just where are you going to go? Where are you going to go and get paid this much and have this amount of overtime every week and have these benefits? Where are you going to go? And so that's kind of how they get people. But her and I didn't work out. And so then I was well, my parents really want me to go to college. I'm going to try college out for a semester. And knew it wasn't for me. I was just always I knew that I was gonna start businesses ever since I was a little kid. Wow. And so then I got talked into going and doing door-to-door sales, and learned a ton doing door-to-door sales.
I bet.
And then from there, a business just became so tangible, because once you learn how to sell, a business is easy. Once you learn how to persuade and communicate to people, a business is easy, because that's literally what the only thing a business is.
Yeah, business may be easy, but people are not.
Yeah,
right. I feel that's something
so
that I realized is probably 30% of the business is actually like marketing and numbers and strategy, and like 70% is people.
Yeah. Yeah. And like whether that the people that are buying your product or the people that you're employing or whatever, it's filled with people and filled with, emotions and filled with like needs. And like your job as a business is to understand those emotions, understand those needs and fulfill those in like in a fulfilling way, so that they want to continue to do whatever you're providing. So being a firefighter, that was awesome. And that probably came from like the idea of you wanting to serve people, right?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so you want to serve people, you want to be helpful, you want to be someone that like, gives people whatever they need. Like you're that helping hand. And that protector in a way, like having younger sisters, just being that protected person. So from there, you're teaching and understanding that you like teaching, and then having that experience with yoga, younger, kind of helping you get through, your younger years and kind of mental struggles and different things that are hard, and realizing like, oh, this person has influenced me to help me get through these struggles, in a way. And that leading to feeling unfulfilled in firefighting. What made you feel unfulfilled in firefighting? It seems like it would be something that would make you feel fulfilled.
Right. Yeah. And for a while it was, and I loved serving my country in that way. But at the end of the night, I just had this gnawing in my stomach that there was more for me to give and more for me to do. And it was like not lighting my heart up, filling my heart. And it's also kind of, I think, idealized in a way, like the government really misuses our resources. And sometimes, actually all the time, it's like, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. And just the red tape with the government too. It seemed very cliquey and boxed in and suppressive almost.
Interesting. Yeah.
But honestly, I honestly loved it. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that 5 years of my life. It taught me a lot, more independence and a lot of adult skills.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Like how to back a trailer and, like use heavy equipment, things like that. But yeah. And also how to work and be with men.
Sure. Yeah.
I was the only woman on that crew for a while. And so, yeah, you're sleeping, eating, and working with these people all the time. And I had always had a pretty negative connotation with men because my father was abusive and an extreme alcoholic and meth head. So he abused me and all of my sisters. So I think being able to heal some of those masculine wounds by like becoming close with all of these men was something that I needed to do.
Sure.
So I'm glad that was in my journey.
No, 100%. Yeah. I think that like a lot of people don't try, and because there's scars in a lot of different ways of just experiences that people have with either gender. And a lot of times we don't look at things on a spectrum of masculinity or femininity or like whatever it might be. And we have a experience with a certain person, and then we relate that to this is how that gender, or this is how masculinity is, or this is how femininity is, and this is like what it's used for, instead of looking at it as this was kind of a person, and there can be like generalizations like around people and around different things, but it does come down to like having experience and like being able to be around a different type of masculinity with these guys, and like other relationships in your life. And I know for me, it's been that way, where I think a good example is I didn't really understand enough about like my culture and what I grew up in until I went to another country, you know, and seeing other people's culture and seeing other people's way of life. And another example would be like on my mission, growing up the way that I did, as religious as I was, and then going and talking to people that were not religious at all, or had different religions and had different ways of life and different ways of thinking and doing and being, and like realizing that there's so much value in a lot of different ways of doing the same thing. And like, there's not like one right or wrong way of being. It's more so just like there's good and bad people. And also that I learned like what I enjoy most being around me, if that makes sense. Like, I know who I can put in my circle because I've experienced enough people and circumstances and individuals to be like, this is the type of person that I want to influence me, and this is the type of energy that I want in my life, and this is the type of, you know, essence or whatever that this person has that like I know is going to benefit my life and make me a better person. But if you are so boxed in into that idea of just like, this is who I am, this is like who, you know, who like I'm going to be in a way, you never get that idea of like those around you.
Yeah. And also like the narrative that plays in your head from what you're integrated with as a child. From, I don't know, like 6 to 13, whatever, from what I can remember, 5 to 13. Yeah. Just negative influences with males, and then never having like, never wanting to have a boyfriend, not having a boyfriend all through high school, and then going to college, and then getting out of college and going straight into like a male dominated field. It was like, whoa, it was a huge learning curve for me. But I was glad that I came in with an open mind and like I think at first I did have like maybe a little bit of chip on my shoulder. But when you get to know people, like you said, you take the time to see them and know them, you realize like we're actually inherently good. Just because your religion is different, or your gender is different, or your, you know, who you vote for is different. I ultimately think we all want the same things, which is to be seen and to be seen and to be happy and to be fulfilled in life. So yeah, I'm glad that I had that experience. It changed my narrative with men, and I see the difference between me and a couple other of my sisters who have like not done some of that work.
Sure.
Like self-work and self-reflection.
Yeah.
That I don't want to say like man haters, but very much like literally say there's no good men, and men this and men that. And that's just not my narrative, because it's not my experience.
Yeah.
And so and because our mind creates our reality, my reality is different. Sure. I have like amazing men around me.
Yeah. And I think that like with that too is like the philosophy or like the idea of giving a dog a good name. Like whatever you speak into existence is what it is, you know? And so like if you do like say there are no good men, or you know, like there are no good women, or there are no loyal, like whatever, or like whatever it might be, that is what you're going to attract into your life, you know, and that is what you're looking for. Like, you know, if you're looking for yellow cars, you're going to see a lot of yellow cars, you know.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
And so I do think that like having that open mind and having that possibility of like, you know, I do believe that there are good people. I do believe that most people are good. I do believe that most people have good intentions. I think that there's like obviously spectrums in that as well. of like just giving everybody the best name possible and then getting bit by like obvious things that, you know, were there present that you can, you know, still have that attitude of like everyone's good, but then acknowledge when something's screaming in your face that this person does not have good intentions.
Yeah. And that is something that I'm still working on. I feel like that's a healthy boundary, or a healthy reality. And I'm still kind of working on that because I want to believe in people so much. I want to believe the good and only see the good in people. It's sometimes hard for me to, even when it's like screaming in my face, see red flags, or ill behavior.
Yeah.
And it's messed up this business and it cost me thousands of dollars. And,
well, and I think like with it too, like when I'm a serial optimist. I don't know what that word would be, but I usually only see the good side in most things. Or I only speak the good side of most things a lot of the time. And when I very first started my businesses, I would do that with people as well. Like every person that I hired, I thought was going to be the rock star that I could see in them. Like this person has so much potential.
Yes.
And this person's awesome. And like, they're going to be great. And I had a few mentors in my life at the time. And, you know, they were just sitting there smiling at me as I talked about these employees and talked about, you know, these people coming on and things like that. And, I'll never forget like one thing that they said to me. They said, you know, keep that as long as you possibly can, because eventually you'll be just like all the rest of us that are jaded and don't believe in anybody anymore.
I am like hell bent on not being jaded.
Yeah. And I think that like I've seen what they've said, you know, over the years of I have been let down by so many people that I've believed in. And I've been able to see the fruition of like that eventually you start expecting people to be their worst selves, or expecting people to let you down. And I've really focused on like not allowing that to be my reality. And I've tried to give people as many chances as I possibly can. But what it has done is it's allowed me to kind of be able to have both sides, where I allow people to show me who they are. You know, like I still always see potential in every person that I talk to. And I always want the best for every single person that I talk to. And what I've experienced and what I've done is I've allowed them to have the space to tell me who they are. And most people will say who they are, but everyone shows you who they are eventually. And with that, I've gotten better and better and better at recognizing patterns. You know, I've hired thousands of people at this point, and have seen their lifespans inside my business, as far as like working for me for 6 years now and working for me for a couple of days. And from that, you get to see a lot of patterns, and you get to see a lot of like things that are indicative of certain behaviors. And so I think that what I've enjoyed about that in a way, or that I've gained, is that ability to read people in a way that I can see your best future, but you're going to tell me exactly what you want. Like, do you want your best future and I'll help you get there? Or do you want to continue to be exactly who you are? You know, like going back to when you're 16 years old, you had a crossroads, a decision of, what do I want? Like, do I want to continue to be this influence on my sisters? Do I want to continue to go down this road? Or do I want to become a different person? And I feel like I have a blessing or a gift of being able to see one side of that, of like the possibility of this person. And then I allow them to make that decision of like, where it is that they want to lead.
With non-attachment.
No, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, it is really hard. That's something that I'm struggling with in my business right now. Our business is I too can see so much potential in some of these people, and they even speak it into their reality, but their actions and words are different. And I am really learning to not hold people to my standard and also to my expectations. And that's something that, it's been pretty emotional the last 6 months, especially.
No, it's hard. And I think for me, like the attachment side of it and the emotional side has been the learned thing for sure. Like at the very beginning, I would get very, very hurt when an employee or, team member would let me down in a way, just because like I knew how invested I was into a person.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the most recent example of that would be we hired somebody who had just gotten out of prison. And you could tell just that there was a desire to, be different, and there's a desire to like change and like achieve all these goals. And there's a lot of like great words and stuff that this person's saying. And I believed them, and like I know even today, like I know that that's a possibility for this person. But they started working for us and they were doing a really good job, and because they're doing a really good job, I would like, constantly, text them, just be like, hey, I've heard you're doing really great here. Keep it up. Like I see really big things in your future. Like I see like you being someone that, we can rely on, and you being someone that we can, promote and give opportunity. And like, I think that you could, do what I do and be just as good at it. And so just like talking to them about different things. And then like there was just a few things happened that their work just dropped off, and, stuff wasn't, going right. And so, and I had my suspicions of like, drug use and things and stuff. But so we brought him into the office and we're just like, hey, like, we need this to turn around. Like you're doing really great. Like, is this still something that you want? If it's not something you want, like, that's okay. Like, but we need to have a discussion on like what this looks like. I want you to stay here. I don't want to let you go. I want you to like be successful. And it's just like, kind of a tearful conversation about the future and about like what he wants and about like, all these different things. And then that day he goes and just lets me down and his team down, and everyone else, clocks in for a building, then, uses and then clocks out, and then goes to another building, clocks in, uses, doesn't even clean the buildings. And we checked the buildings at night, so we found out, the buildings weren't clean. But it was just like, just so heartbreaking to me, because like this person convinced me, like, and it had been a while before someone had convinced me that like, yes, you are gonna like be that person. Yes, you're gonna make the change. Yes, you're gonna like do these things, and like I'm all in. Like I'm ready to like help
do whatever you need to help.
To do that, and then like making that decision to like go back, and making that decision to like fail, was just super hard on me. And it sounds weird, that's hard on me. But
no, it doesn't. I completely understand. You're invested in your people. And this is the 70% that we were talking about. Like you're invested in your people, and his story and his success is an extension of your success. And so he chooses not to do that and steps away. And so that's a huge letdown. And I mean, not to the same extreme, but I invested in a teacher recently, and I let her use the studio for free to teach privates, and hoping that it would keep her here because I knew another studio was opening that she was very interested in. But gave her an amazing deal So she was making like $80 an hour. I said, this is just, I can't give you everything that you need, but like, here's, our business investing in you. And she finished out her private sessions and then proceeded to leave. And the same thing, I just felt like a huge pit in my stomach. And I actually cried over it because she was one of my first teachers. So she'd been with us for almost a year. And, seeing her every single week and watching her daughter and bringing her, food when she was ill, flowers. Anyway, like we are literally creating a community here. And I'm sure that's what you do with your business as well. You create a support and a network and a community. And to have someone just so easily walk away or choose not to be a part of that, feels like it's my fault. Like, what did I do wrong? What am I not doing enough of? How can I be a better leader? Like, what did I not say? What did I not do? It's my fault, right? And I think that that's something that I'm trying to learn and remind myself that it's not always me, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that that's something that you have to have as an entrepreneur. I think that you're a great example of taking that extreme ownership of who you are and of what you do. And the reality of things is when you are that person that takes that extreme ownership, like a lot of time you take ownership of things that are out of your control. And that's something that I've had to, learn and kind of deal with over, these thousands of people that I've hired and, either let go or kept or whatever it might be, or help them and then see them move on, which is my ultimate goal, is to my business is a business that should be a stepping stone. It's not a business that you really, spend your life into, like as a team member. There's opportunity there and things like that for a long time. But I always want people to leave my business with knowledge and with experience and with ability to do more and to be better than they were before they came to work for me. And so with that, like being able to kind of realize that there's only so much that you can do, in certain circumstance. And at the end of the day, you just have to be very, very, very comfortable with who you are and understand yourself so well that the outside forces of these people or situations, whether they turn out good or turn out bad, what your intentions were and who you are as a person. And so at the end of the day, if they did turn out bad or whatnot, there isn't a chance of that person turning around and being like, oh, you're a horrible person for this, or you're a bad person for this, or whatever. And it's really easy for people, especially in business, to turn around and look at you as an employer, as a team member, or as a support, and be like, you didn't do enough to help me. And at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with who you are and realize that like their opinion of you does not shape like the reality of who you are.
Which is something that's probably the hardest about entrepreneurship, is like the level of rejection that you get. And I think that's awesome that you did door-to-door sales, because I'm sure that helped you with rejection. Yeah. I'm guessing. Well, I'm still working on the rejection, and my self-worth is already low because of the way I grew up, just feeling like we were trash, like literally we were white trash. And so to be like, my boundaries are so open and my heart is so open. When someone closes their heart or decides to like walk away, it's still so painful. And I'm learning, and it's good. It's like I'm building that foundation like one step at a time. I'm learning to remember like my true intentions are right.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself of that, because there's, especially with social media, and competition and all of the ruckus, it can cloud my judgment. It can cloud my actions, my intuition. And then, make you go to extreme lows.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a battle. because I think you have to have some form of self-doubt to be an entrepreneur, because you have to be searching and achieving for something that's kind of impossible.
Not stagnant, right? You want to keep. Yeah.
But you also have to be so confident in who you are that you can withstand the storms of other people telling you that you're not good enough, or you're doing it wrong, or whatever it might be.
That's like, it's so interesting. I feel like that's most people actually don't want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you've experienced, but
yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people that are not genuine.
I think like most people don't want you to succeed until you do. And then once you do, they're the greatest cheerleaders in the world. And they're like, oh, teach me how you did it, and teach me how you did this, and then do that. And but before that, it's you're not gonna do it, or like that's the wrong decision, or you should go to college, or you should do this, or this is the way that you should do it. And like, it's really like looking at people and figuring out like, is this person someone worthy enough of like their opinion? Is it worthy of my attention?
Right.
You know, and then like moving that goalpost, you know, as you grow, and as you succeed, and as you like, figure out yourself more and more and more, it's way easier to then, like, once you have a sure understanding of who you are in the moment that you're in right now, it's easy to sift out those people that aren't worthy of like their opinion is not worthy of your time.
Yeah. Or realize it's like their projection, their insecurities, their relationship with money, or whatever it is. Yeah. Staying true and narrow to my values, and in my mission of service is what I have to constantly come back to, because there's been like so many nights where I'm like, is this worth it? Is this worth it? No one cares. Like I'm not doing enough, like just, close up shop. But I have to just remember, like, I truly do not feel I was downloaded with this mission and given all of these skills in this hardship for no reason. I need to use it. I need to implement it. I need to serve. I have to keep reminding myself. And so it's okay if there's ruckus, if there's talk, if there's ups and downs. It just, that's my light.
Yeah. And, I have kind of upset quite a few people in the way of, like, when someone has said something about me, or said something, whatever it might be, that I know to be untrue. I don't get upset about it. And a lot of people get upset that I don't get upset about it. But I always just say, like, that person isn't worthy of my attention, like it. And with that, like, it's been like a learned thing, and it's been like a requirement. Like, my standards have to raise with like the standards that I live up to myself, and like, I almost encourage sometimes my employees to, like, let me be the bad guy. Like, if we have to have a bad guy, let me be the bad guy, because like, it's not going to affect me. Like, like, if I'm the bad guy, that's okay, because you thinking I'm the bad guy is not going to change who I am. Like, I'd rather you think that I'm a bad guy than you think that Nick, or like my manager's the bad guy.
Oh, sure.
Like, because a lot of times, like, there has to be someone that we gossip about. There has to be someone that we think, that we talk badly about, or whatever. And like, I would much rather it be me than be my manager.
Sure.
I'd much rather it be something, because I know that, like, those things are not going to change who I am. Like, I know who I am, and this chatter and this talk, or whatever it is that someone's saying about me, I know to be not true. I just know it, and so it's not going to affect me, because it's someone's opinion that doesn't matter to me, but on that same coin, if my girlfriend, or my dad, or my mentors in my life, or Kyle, or somebody else said those same things about me, then I'll be like, yeah, thank you for telling me that. Like, I want to make that change.
Yeah, I think that's a hard balance to find too, like that ego, and having, like, we need ego to be able to be an entrepreneur and like go through all of the lows and go through all of the negative talking, whether it's true or not. But then it's so beautiful that you're not so inflated that you can't take feedback and continue to change. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's something a lot of people are missing.
Well, I think it's a requirement for entrepreneurship. I really, really do.
Yeah.
I think that like you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to look at yourself and like.
And I think it's like actually related to the level of your success.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like how raw and real can you get with yourself on what you're actually doing and what you actually need to change is, I feel like, really equal to the level of your growth.
100%. Yeah, I think that like, and that's where I talk about like people's opinions. Like I'm not gonna have a second grader tell me how to color. Like I'm gonna have an artist tell me how to color. If someone isn't where I want to be, I'm not gonna let them change who I am to get to where they are. Like a lot of people know what it takes to get places, but they don't want to do it. But I want to listen to the people that have actually done it.
Yeah.
And you usually know when something's right. You usually know when something's true. And so when there has been people that have struck me with an insult or with something, and you just recognize that it's true. And no matter who it is, it could be the homeless guy down the street, and they say, "You're a freaking jackass," or this, or like whatever. And you're like, you know what? Yeah, I was, or whatever it be. And like, I should probably change that. That guy's right. But most of the time, if you have that ability of like looking, inward into yourself, and like you can see, who it is that you want to be. And then those people that you respect and those people that you look up to, they can usually see things that you don't, that you need to change. And I think like you said, your ability to change and your ability to take that direction from people that you aspire to be or, really respect, is completely correlated to how quickly your business is going to be able to grow.
So then do you think mentorship is important then?
I think mentorship is way more important than any other thing that you could have as a business owner. Like if you line up 100 people and 50 of them went to college and 50 of them just had mentors, being an entrepreneur, the 50 that just had mentors would do 100 times better than the people that just went to college. Like there's just a difference of lessons that you need to learn. Yeah. And the lessons are changing so freaking fast.
You're so right.
And so like if you go to college and you're learning marketing in college, in this day and age of AI, like unless you are actively using AI every single day, you are going to be outpaced by anybody using AI in the next year to 2 years. You're in college right now, and if you are not actively learning AI every single day in business, you will leave college 15 years behind everyone else. And so like if you have a mentor that is in it and in the weeds and has forecasted those storms that you're going to have to weather, you're going to surpass everyone else that has no idea that those storms even exist. And like I said, I want to learn from people that have done.
Yeah.
And so if I was ever going to take a college class about business, it would have to be from somebody that has achieved some level of success in business. If you have only studied business, you don't know it.
I agree. Yeah.
If you've only studied sales, you're not a good salesman. Like if you have to get the reps in, you have to get the time, you have to go through the endless amount of rejection. You have to learn those things, and you can naturally be good at something. You can be naturally good at something.
But that only takes you so far.
It only takes you so far, and you have to learn the lessons. You have to pay the price.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it, is that there's a price to pay for every level of success that you want to be. If you want to be a billionaire, there are prices and like things that you have to do as a human that requires so much of you that's why there's only a few dozen of them in the world, because of that price. And like, no one sees the price that's paid. That's the thing. And so like, whatever level of success you see a person, there is a price that was paid to get there. If you see someone that is an incredible piano player, there was a price to pay to become that incredible piano player. It's like, I think it was an interview that Ed Sheeran was having with Mick Jagger, I think, and or somebody like that. I can't remember. I was on a radio show, but he was like, "Oh, you're so blessed to have been a great singer your whole life." And Ed Sheeran was like, "No." He's like, "I sucked at singing." He's like, "Have you seen my first videos when I posted on YouTube?" And he's like, "No," and like, they're horrible. Like, and he pulled it up, and it's just like really, really bad. He's like, "I've spent countless hours practicing to become a good singer." He's like, "I wasn't blessed with this," and nobody is blessed with anything that becomes great at anything.
Right.
It is required to pay the price to get to where you want to go. And most people are not willing to pay that price, whether it's business ownership, becoming good at any sport, becoming good at, wellness, whatever it is. There's countless hours and countless nights of effort that no one else sees for you to become good at that.
Yeah. I think it's idealized, honestly, too, because a lot of people maybe only show the good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Why would you show that?
I don't know. I'm trying to be honest with people. But I think a lot of people idealize specifically my business, like owning a wellness space, because every teacher I come into contact with is like, "Oh, I would love to have a space like this." And I'm like, wait, I don't think you actually do. Like, do you know I was here till 3 a.m. yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, do you know that I still have to scrub the toilets and be here at 6 a.m. to open the doors, but also be here at 9:30 to close the doors? I'm like concerned about insurance and bills and making sure people are here for classes, and then trying to fill the rooms, and then like you're tethered to something, and you're so right. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you don't realize until you're doing it. No school can teach you until you're doing it.
It's super, super, super hard, and no one really understands how hard it is until they're in it. And the one example that I always give that struck me so freaking hard when I was, I think, like 16 or 17. I have a friend that is just super, super, super good at piano. Like, incredible at piano. He like can lay on the ground, play it, while underneath it. I mean, and it's amazing. And I can't remember who he was talking to, but somebody said they came up to him and they said, "I would give anything to play like you do." And he said, "No, you wouldn't." And he was like, "If you would give anything to play like I do, you would do it." He's like, "You won't give anything to play like I do because you won't do what I have done to learn to play like I do." And that struck me so hard. And that's been something that I've always, gave myself as an indicator of like what I actually want in life and what I actually want to do. Like, and I can be honest with myself of what I do, because like what you spend time in is what you actually want.
And you almost have to like reverse engineer it. Like, you may think you want that dream, but you need to like reverse engineer it and see how that dream is achieved. And are you willing to not go out on Friday, Saturday night and spend, every single day after work playing the piano and practicing, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like, when people ask me like, "Oh, I want to start a business," or I would be great to start a business. It would be great to do this. And I always don't say like what the business is. I always just ask them like, "Who are you? Like what do you want? Like, are you a business owner?" Because if you are, you should start that business. But if you aren't, then you definitely shouldn't start that business. And they're like, oh yeah, I am. And then I start, laying out certain things of what's required, like the sleepless nights, the stress, other people's lives that you're accountable for, nobody being able to, you're the last line of defense, and you have to be the one with the answers all day long, every day. And it never goes away.
Ever.
It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. You might delegate, but at the end of the day, the responsibility is yours always. Are you willing to put in hours and hours and hours of effort with no guarantee of return to then have to pivot and do another set of hours and hours and hours with no guarantee of return to see if that's successful? Fail at that and then do it again. Fail at that and do it again. Think that you're right and then be wrong, and then think that you're right and then be wrong, and then realize that you're actually right. Like, are you willing to do all these things that are required to own that business? And if you're not, then you shouldn't even start, and so that's why we've created the program like that we have in my business, the Night Owl Academy, to help people with the desire of, I want to be a business owner, to really examine that inside their own selves of like, do you really want to be a business owner, or do you just like the idea? Because we're going to put you through these tests. We're going to put you through these things that are on a very small scale of what you will feel as a business owner, but it's meant to be uncomfortable. It's meant to be hard, because if this is hard, owning your own business is going to be harder. But if you can survive this, then you have a way more likely chance of surviving that. And so it will help people figure that out without taking the huge risk of, jumping both feet in like most entrepreneurs and risking all the money and risking it all the time. But we've been going for a while. Well, I definitely want to do more episodes with you and dive into what you're experiencing with your businesses and where you're at, and share experiences and learn from each other as we talk. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Part 2.
We'll do part 2 here soon.
All right. Thanks, Stetson.